Hello friends, so today we are going to understand the basic working and phenomenon of oil-free, oilless and water injected compressors from compare side, means for compare models. So ultimately let's understand the requirement of compressed air for any industry. So we can understand the any industry which are processing manufacturing side and maybe any service type, so their requirement or their fundamental uh, things for air is compressed air. And by the time and with the demand of industries and its processes, they need quality air, and by this means the dry air is introduced. So ultimately we can understand that the air with dry side for any industries like food and pharmacies, so they need dry air in their process. So air has become an active and the wet air become critical for food and pharmaceutical industry rather than electrical and chemical industries too. So another things that it's okay wet air, but they need oilless or oil free air for their processes to maintain the hazardous process or health, maintain the health issue for the working environment. And so before starting the working of oil free, oilless or water injected rotary compressor, let's understand the customer needs and demands. So ultimately with the compressed air for any rotary compressor, purchase price is much lower than energy cost and maintenance and service cost to run any compressor. So ultimately we need to reduce the energy cost, which are major parameter to costing of any running costing for any run compressor to run. So after then the maintenance and service cost is second part. So the minimum price is purchase. So ultimately we can reduce the energy cost to provide the efficient compression. So let's start how we can manage and maintain the energy efficient and provide the efficient compressor to customer and for the customer satisfaction. The our compressor, let's start from the air filter, but before that our compressor is slightly different from rotary compressors for mainly for water injected system. Here we are not using oil in process throughout process of compression. We are using water. So the inner structure of air end is different from rotary compression. So let's understand from suction side or air filtration side. So we have two type of filters in the system. The main filter is suction filter, but rather than there is a canopy suction filter or suction window. Suction window maintain the internal air system of the, or we can say the internal atmosphere of the compressor under the canopy, and it manage the clean air, and it by providing the slightly clean air from either from the outside environment. And another work of the canopy suction is to increase the suction filter life. So the second and main part for the suction main part for the filter, here the suction filter is much efficient filter rather than canopy suction filter or window filter. It can provide the clean and oil free air to compression. Okay, so this is a suction filter, and after that the air end consists the single main rotor and two gate rotors. Okay, here why I have told you that it has a different inner structure than rotary compressor, because in the water injected compressor, there is a one main rotor and two gate rotors. Okay, one is this side left and one is right, okay, right and left side. So ultimately we have two gate rotors and one main rotor. One main rotor consists of fluids, and fluids, between two fluids there is a fluid pocket or air gap. Okay, now here we can understand that the gate rotors have no any prime movement, or means no have any prime movers, because the rotor is connected, rotor male part is connected to fluid section and follows the fluid passes when the main rotor is moved, when the stroke is going on, and the fluid path is traced by the gate rotors. So ultimately the gate rotors do not need any moving element, prime movers to rotary movement, because it follow simply fluids of main rotor. Another things, that these gate rotors and the fluids is produce the two chambers, upper chamber and lower chamber, means top side and bottom side. Both chambers are separate from each other and producing the compression. So ultimately we can say these compressors are single stage compressor, but don't understand that I have told you that top side chamber and bottom side chamber, but this rotor or this assembly is generating single stroke compression. So ultimately the upper side and lower side is balanced by each other, and this type of compression or errand assembly is much balanced than another compressors. So ultimately the vibration is reduced, okay, and we can less maintain it to run the compressor required. Okay, so this is basic from the errand side. Now we are introducing the water cycle to the system. Here I have told you that this is a water injected system. We haven't used any oil throughout the system for lubrication and cooling purpose, but we are using water. We need purified water for system and to protect the system from any other unwanted damages from the corrosion part and dust and contamination part. So we need purified water, okay, means clean water. The purified water injected into the compression element, and it lubricates the seals and cools the all over the system, means follow the system lines, it's cool the system. So the compressed air and water mixture is discharged from the compression element, means air, and passes into the water separation vessel, which we can told in another way sump. So the water is separate from the air in sump. Low temperature of air is slightly rise, and it means that in a final air discharge, no need of any external or internal cooler, and it is not necessary because it is mixture of water and air, and for that the air is lower temperature in starting, and it is rise to the level of the air, and ultimately we get air with desired temperature, and no need to introduce any cooler. We have just an water cooler in system. Okay, the air that is separated from the water in the separator vessel or sump passes throughout the minimum pressure or non-return valve, then into our system line. Okay, so the sump have a non-return valve because the sump require the minimum pressure and it should be maintained. Okay, so here the pressurized air maintain that minimum pressure requirement by help of non-return valve. In VFD or any controlled system, means like variable frequency driver, any similar type of control system, we can measure the discharge pressure. According to that, we can adjust the rotational speed of the compressor to ensure that we are using just the efficiency we need to run the compressor for desired pressure, and no more energy we are wasting for it. Okay, so ultimately we are using VFD systems for different models, or we can use fixed speed motor too. Okay, so ultimately this VFD phenomenon is to grow saving the energy to run just desired amount of pressure pressure of the compressor, and saving the energy for that. Okay, we are reducing unnecessary energy which are wasting in fixed speed type compressors. So the top of water, let's understand how the top of water required in starting cycle. So the top of water injection is provided by fully integrated water purification system. The top of water injection is provided by fully integrated water purification system. Water enters the system and it's cleaned in the activated carbon filter. We have carbon filters with starting of the water line, and after then the water enters in reverse osmosis membranes, and reverse osmosis membranes is much efficient, and it's allow the removal of the particles like ion and similar type smaller particles we can easily remove from the solution, and we can say from the water. And this reverse osmosis is to be used to produce water to meet the most demanding properties and specifications currently in place. It is capable of rejecting the bacteria, salt, sugar contaminants and particles, and the protein particles, dyes and other dust particles also. But in other contaminants we can say that is a semi-permissible type, and it allows only a pure water to passes throughout it. And while rejecting the contaminant that remain one throughout the membranes, the purified water is stored in small storage tank. We have small storage tank too, which we are using for the requirement of water, and it is actuated and provide the amount of water when the sump is required or when the errand is required also. When water top up or the top of water is required, it passes throughout an activated carbon filter. Let's understand the flow of water in top of cycle. So top of water is required. Let's assume the top of water is required and it passes throughout the activated carbon filter, then in compression. Okay, then into a compression. The separated water that has passed throughout the compressor follow into the integrated cooler. Okay, the water which is processed with compressed air, and it passed throughout the compressor flow line and from the integrated water cooler, where it is cooled by the cooling fans or blowers. From here it passes into a water filter also. From the cooling cooler, this water is passes throughout the filter water filter, and it is cleaned, and it's ensured that the water that is sprayed into the air end and both cool and clean. Okay, you are generated high means high quality compressed air. High quality compressed air, the compressor can be driven by fixed speed motor and any inverter or innovative switched or reluctance drive system or similar, as I have discussed. So ultimately the compressor to be precisely controlled to meet our changing demands, and fine pressure control ensure that we are use just and exactly the energy required to do the compression and job, and no more energy is wasted. ultimately within this system there is a less moving parts, there is no oil, there is no hazardous extra safety requirements for the oil side, and the maintenance is less because of there is a minimal moving parts. So ultimately we are reducing maintenance side because there is a less vibration also in air end or compressor side. So the major part of saving cost from energy, we are using VFD such type of system to reduce the unnecessary energy losses. So ultimately we are providing the energy efficient compressors. Okay, here we can see that this portion is extra for saving from energy side, and ultimately our goal is to provide the customer satisfaction. So when the customer is happy, so our compressors are to be